All right, do you know what time it is?
It's time to do our Kegels.
It is, and this is the most, in some ways, my favorite part of the show. Because who doesn't want a strong pelvic floor, Twila?
I think I want one, so I'm good.
Exactly. So this is the time of the show when we do our Kegel exercises. It's so easy. It's so simple and can be so effective and life-changing.
That's right.
And so we are going to go over the customized GynoCast world-renowned regimen.
Okay, you ready?
Yep.
3
times a day.
6
days a week.
9
seconds per Kegel exercise.
and 12.
Kegels in a row to make a rep. It's so simple. All you have to do is do 12 in a row, 3 times a day, 6 days a week, and hold them for 9 seconds. You will have a pelvic floor like a chain link fence. You will be able to pull a trailer with it. You will be the envy of your neighbors.
I think you will be, that's for sure.
Hello, everyone. You are listening to the GynoCast. My name is Dr. Heegaard. I'm here with Twila Dang, my wing woman.
Hello. That's why do you laugh when you say that?
I don't know. You've given me permission to call you that. It's just I kind of like the way it sounds. Wing woman.
There you go.
What am I to you then, Twila? Your wing dude?
You can be a wingman. It's okay.
Is your husband okay with that?
My husband doesn't socialize with me. We're fine. It's all right.
Okay, well, you are listening to GynoCast. If you're a new listener, thank you for listening, giving us a shot.
Mm-hmm.
Please join the GynoCast Facebook group because that's a life-changing experience.
It is.
If you're a repeat listener, we love you just as much and differently.
Okay, we'll take that.
And anyway, thank you for listening. So today, what are we talking about, Twila?
Oh, well, I guess we're going to call this back by popular demand.
Sex in nursing homes?
Yeah. Actually, we do need to do a show about that.
I have a little thing I have to.
Okay, we're not getting off topic.
Oh, yeah, we got it. We're not getting off topic.
No, we'll do.
This is on topic.
Okay, no, we'll do a show about that. But because it's a real thing. But we're not.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, we are. But we're not doing that right now. It's seriously a real thing. Okay. No, we're actually going to do sort of a part 2 to an earlier episode that we did.
Really?
We did a episode earlier that talked about the things people used to believe about women's bodies. It came from a website I really love called The List. And there you would think that there are all of these crazy myths and folklore and legends that would not exist today, that we'd be over it.
Yeah.
But strangely enough, we're not. So today we're actually going to continue that sort of thread and talk a little bit more about some of these things that people used to think they knew, but that were completely backwards, including some things that have touchstones with the modern day, unfortunately.
Okay.
And as always, we'll make sure we put a copy of the article up on the syllabus at the Matriarch Digital Media website. So go to matriarchdm.com.
Is it syllabus or syllabus?
It's syllabus. Cut it out. We're not playing pronunciation with you today. Okay, so the kickoff for today's list is something that we all actually experienced in real time recently in the news. The myth that only willing women can get pregnant.
Oh my God!
Yes, good old former Congressman Todd Aiken.
Yeah.
And his ridiculous allegation in 2012 that a rape victim couldn't get pregnant, and because
it's not legitimate rape.
That it's not legitimate rape because she's unwilling to get pregnant.
Yeah, if she's if you're really raped and you're unwilling,
you can't get pregnant. Yeah, and we all know that that's 1, stupid, 2, stupid.
He should have been, he should have his congressional colleagues should have not just shamed him. He should have just been fired.
Yeah.
At that point, it's just, if you're that ignorant of just.
But remember,
I don't even know what to say. It's maddening and frustrating. It's
maddening.
Appalling.
It's frustrating. It was appalling, but it is also indicative of sort of the culture of some people in very powerful places who have very antiquated notions about lots of things and unfortunately have the power to legislate and dictate what we do with our bodies because of that power.
That's right.
So it's even more important that we sort of stand up and rail against the stupidity when we see it, which we're happy to say is what happened to him. That
he's not in Congress anymore.
People just stood up and said, no, look, fella, it's not happening. So, and
this guy, can I just point something out that he was not
it.
like a state representative.
No.
This guy was a U.S. representative of Congress and incredibly powerful, and I believe he was on something that had to do with healthcare.
Yeah, he was a powerful dude. He had a lot of access. He definitely had a seat at the table of power, and the fact that he thought that so readily, and not 100 years ago, not 40 years ago, not 70 years ago, 2012, y'all.
Yeah.
2012. So we have to really, be aware of I think it's just really important that you're a knowledgeable person, that you're a thoughtful person. I think it's really important that you are a learned person so that you can always recognize when foolishness like this comes up so that you can absolutely call it out for what it is, stand up against it, make sure that you're able to be an intelligent enough voter and supporter that you don't just go along with whoever has the shiniest ad on TV or whoever, whose name you hear the most. You have to, some of that falls back on us and our responsibility to do our due diligence.
We vote these people in.
Yeah, due diligence.
Perhaps that conversation had not come up. But his level of intellect and sophistication in terms of understanding the world and all the other spheres that he has influence in has to be put into question. That guy should maybe have a seat at the table as the water commissioner of a town with 12 people.
He can have a seat at the table at the outhouse. That's all I'm worried about at this point. And luckily
and
for
whoever
us, he's
voted
no
him,
longer in power.
I don't remember where he's from, but whoever voted him into Congress should be embarrassed and shamed.
He was at Missouri. Is where he was from.
Well, and our beloved friends down there, but you got to own up to what you did.
Well, now what is Maya Angelou? She used to say, "When you know better, you do better."
There you go.
So now we know better. We can do better. Now, next on this list of things that people used to believe about women's bodies is that women's brains are smaller and less capable. This came from, I believe, the 1920s.
Yeah, I think that we can all agree that the size of the brain doesn't necessarily have much to do with intellect, as evidenced by the fact that whales cannot do origami.
Okay.
And I've never seen one make a superb cream sauce.
Fair point. I think this is even
whales
dumber.
Got big-ass brains.
Well, this
is like the size of a Volkswagen.
Yeah, but I mean, this particular thing is even dumber because it did not come from a medical person or a medical association. It came from the members of the anti-suffragist movements, such as the National Association Opposed to Women's Suffrage, right? Who claimed that women didn't have the capacity to understand politics and therefore should not be given the right to vote.
Yeah.
So this is really just propaganda that people that didn't want women to be able to vote, readily just said, yeah, their brains are small.
Well, this argument has been translated into many different ways of discriminating against people.
Amen. Again and again and again. So it's one of those things like the idea of be a learned person, be a person who is curious and thoughtful and educate yourself so that you understand the difference between fact and pure fiction.
Yeah, and also the idea that as to be willing to confront your own ideas, to be willing to learn to the point that to have the courage to accept that some of the things you believe may not be true.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let yourself be concretized. I don't know if that's a word.
I'm about to say
calcified.
If it is, I don't know. I'm gonna look up the first one now. Now I'm excited.
I like
I like
concrete. I think like calcified, and that's what
I like vocabulary.
I love it. I love it when somebody will respectfully disagree with me and tell me that something I've said or something I believe is not correct because I learned something. If you're just I
try not to tell people that they're incorrect. I just try to tell them, have you thought about it a different way? Because I think it's important that you acknowledge people where they are.
Right.
Because you can't get somebody to move forward.
Style is a big deal.
Well, and one of the things I've learned is I don't want people to agree with me. I just want them to really think about what they believe so that when they get there, when they get to whatever that last thought is, they've really thought it out and they've really made sure that it's inclusive of different viewpoints. I mean, we may still disagree at the end of it. I don't need everybody to be on my team, but I do need to know that respectfully, you looked at all the bases, I looked at all the bases,
right.
And we just came to a different conclusion. And even that level of respect allows for compromise later on.
As long as it's respectful. And I would just add to the point that if you just talk about the way we get our data now, as you know, we can be so ghettoized now, which is whatever you believe, you can find, if you go on the internet, you can find a million people who believe exactly the same thing.
Yeah, and then
you don't have to confront people with different lenses and viewpoints.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so what I would like to encourage people to do, and I'm encouraging myself to do it, and I do it, which is to listen to other things. People who listen to the Gynocast and have known me know that I am left-leaning. I listen to CNN, but I also listen to Fox. I also read Breitbart. I listen to BBC. You gotta look at things.
I can't. There's a point at which I want a different viewpoint, and then there's a point at which I to me, there's a line of I want to know what's out there, but I refuse to allow myself to absorb things that I know traffic in certain things. Like there's like
Right.
I'll watch Fox News to gain a perspective of like how did they just get this so wrong? Like where are they coming from? But like I won't put a dime's worth of anything into Breitbart because I know what it is now. Like I didn't know what it was before, but I know what it is
Right.
now. And I think it's really, and I think that's even important too, is that when people are trying to get sort of perspective on things, I always tell people, a good place to get your information when you're trying to understand a situation is find a source that's completely sort of outside of it that doesn't have a tie to it. Like I will read and watch and invest in sources outside of our country in terms of like different foreign newspapers, foreign agencies, and like television, and to see how what their
Looking
take is.
at us.
Yeah,
Right.
because they a lot of times they act like a third party, and they can say, "Listen, this is what we saw the Republicans do. This is what we saw the Democrats do. This is what we see the American governmental system do. This is how it's impacting our system." And now I'm getting a wider view. Things that, and you're right. It's very easy to have a myopic view. I'm a black woman in America. I can very much find sources that only support my worldview, which is black women are everything. And
Yeah,
we should be.
all you'd have to do is listen to BWA all the time or read BWA.
What's that? What are you talking about?
Black Women of America, the TV show, the network.
What's that?
Twila, I'm just pulling your leg.
Oh, I was about to say, if I knew if it existed, I would know what it is. I was like, wait, I'm missing something.
I'm just pulling your leg.
I was like, I know there's a BET Her now, but what is that? I don't know.
No, so I'm saying when you're in the fishbowl.
Yeah, it's easy
gotta
to
have
just
somebody
live
looking.
it's easy to only be in the fishbowl. So I think that today's theme is going to be learned, please.
Look through other people's lenses and at least have the ability to filter and to know when something is complete bullspit.
I agree.
Bullspit, Twila.
Okay, you've got your max of 2. I'm editing any more of those out.
There is nothing wrong with saying bullspit.
That's 3. That's editing it out. I already told you.
Okay.
Okay. Now, next on this list of things that
Krill drool.
Okay. Dang it.
No, you tell me. Has anybody ever said krill drool?
Okay, I'm just gonna
anywhere?
listen. I never say how the sausage gets made, but somebody said they needed to get out here at a certain time day to day, and he's just rolling along.
Okay,
just gonna put it out there.
All right.
Okay, next on this list of things people used to believe about women's bodies, that infertility is all women's fault. So I'm not even gonna say anything. I'm just gonna put this out there and let you just go to town because I know, doctor, I know you just go for it. The floor is yours.
Yeah, well, it's just the facts do not support that, and we know that it falls into about 30-30-30, which is 30% of the time it's almost solely female dependent. Like if the woman doesn't have any tubes or the tubes are blocked or she never ovulates, well, and by ovulate I mean release an egg, well, that's probably the reason. About 30% of the time it is the guy completely, and if the man has no sperm, you're not going to get pregnant.
Well, there you go.
And about 30% of the time, so let's say 33.333, because it's a third. About 33.3333% of the time, it is a combination of both.
Well, there
it is.
And mind you, we've done a myriad of shows talking about fertility and infertility, and we will link some of those up in the syllabus too. So if this happened to have spurred a thought process for you that you wanted to know more, we'll make sure we provide more for you.
Yeah, that's right.
Now the next one on this list, I've never heard this. It kind of blew my mind that people actually thought this. Breast milk is coagulated menstrual blood. Apparently this comes from the Middle Ages, and that most people thought that breastfed babies were being given blood. The dominant belief came from the idea that breast milk and menstrual blood are the same substance, but that breast milk had been heated, coagulated, and whitened by hot air.
That's just hard to buy.
And this was actually taught. This was taught by like philosophers like Aristotle, Galen, and there's a reference to it found in the Jewish Talmud.
Yeah, but the thing that's surprising about some of the conversations we've had about it is that let's take some menstrual blood and heat it. And what was the other thing they said? It
was like heated. It apparently was heated and turned white by hot air.
Yeah, so let's just do a little experiment. Take some menstrual blood, heat it, and expose it to hot air and see if it turns white. Not going to happen.
Yeah, this seems like common.
So it just seems so dumb.
Like I said, I still think this is over history. I feel like again and again that there was a point at which a dude didn't understand something about women, and because they just thought so little of us as a gender that it was just easier to make up something fantastical to sound smarter than the next guy in the room. So I feel like this is almost like tall tales and legends. Like, this guy said this about women, so I'm going to get more famous by saying this about women, because nobody's going to go fact check it, because nobody's going to go engage with women to find out.
Well, this is actually goes into kind of the philosophy, the history of medicine, which is fascinating. They used to, in the Middle Ages, believe that there was, and I haven't studied up on this, so this is probably not going to be completely accurate, but they looked at medicine and philosophy in some of the same ways, which they thought that there were the elements. There was, earth, wind, fire,
water.
Thank you.
I got you.
I was just thinking of the band.
One. I got you. You're going to start singing in September.
I know. I'm just thinking, why did they have one other guy?
Great.
Why didn't they have one other guy? But, earth, wind, fire, and water, and that sickness came from an imbalance in those things. So they would talk about, this is being sanguine. The idea of being sanguine had to be with or choleric.
Yeah,
like
you hear that in a lot of like Indian, like when people talk about Indian medical practice or medical beliefs, or like mind, body, spirit, beliefs, Chinese medicine, like that. You hear that sort of theme of like the balance of warm and cool and things like that all the time.
It's fascinating, and I think that for the most part, at least historically, there wasn't a whole lot of truth to it, because they used to bleed everybody just because they didn't know what else to do.
Right.
But they would, if you were sick, they would bleed you because they thought there was
bring on the leeches.
Yeah, if you take the blood out. And what was the idea of it? Anyway, but it's just kind of interesting when you look back, and just amazing how people survive being treated by that's why we would run away from anybody who was a physician, surgeon, dentist. Unless you had no other idea.
That's kind of crazy.
Option.
Support for the GynoCast is provided by OBGYN West. OBGYN West provides the highest quality care from compassionate providers, including women's health issues from general sexual health to pregnancy care, childbirth, menopause, and beyond. Whether it's your teen's first annual exam, a new baby's on the way, or you're facing the special challenges of middle age, OBGYN West provides a wide array of services. Their doctors and PAs are trained in virtually every type of OBGYN service and procedure. OBGYN West provides exceptional care for women.
Okay, so this next one I think will be interesting to you. We're continuing our list of things people used to believe about women's bodies, that the uterus has 7 cells. Yeah.
What is there any explanation of that? Is it just
it said before people understood the science behind reproduction, they believed that a baby's sex depended on which chamber of the uterus it was carried in. So it was commonly believed that the uterus had 7 chambers or cells, with the right 3 developing males and the left 3 developing females.
Well, that's really interesting, because when you think about it, historically, there was a lot of resistance to doing autopsies on human beings.
Right.
And so probably the only exposure people had to anatomy was animals. If you look at a cow, or many animals have a uterus that allows multiple fetuses. I'm just winging it here. I'm winging it here, but I bet you that's what's going on.
That was a good wing.
Thank you. I'm pulling this off out of nowhere.
Just saying, that was pretty good.
And even if I'm wrong, it's interesting.
Was going, so nice. Okay, this next one I actually would like to believe. I mean, it's not true, but if I can convince my children, then maybe they'll behave better. Menstrual blood has special powers. Yes, it came from, in particular, 12th century mystic Hildegard of Bingen, that believed it could be used to cure leprosy. Yep.
Hildegard of Bingen?
Bingen. Yeah. Say that 12 times fast. Yeah.
I am feeling ill. Call Hildegard of Bingen.
Bingen. Apparently this is... And also indigenous South Americans believe that menstrual blood was the source of which all mankind was created. I mean, that ain't wrong.
Yeah.
So
it just goes to show the mystery and awe that people had of the female body in the past.
Okay, we said this in the previous podcast that talked about this topic, which you can find in the syllabus. We'll link to it. That I feel like we missed a grand opportunity to change the entire scope of women in existence, because there was a point in time where everything our bodies did terrified men, And because it terrified them, and because we didn't know how to sort of turn that and sort of take the power of that, we just wound up not taking full advantage of this.
Well, I think that historically, and again, those historians out there, tell me I'm wrong because I'm winging this again, but I think that historically, before certain religious organizations crushed the feminine divine, there was more balance in that.
I agree with that. We're going to have to put a link to the feminine divine because you've talked about it a couple times and we haven't really, well, I know, but we haven't really extrapolated for people. So yeah, we need to do that at some point. The next on this list is that pregnancy mood swings are caused by an irritable uterus. It's irritable. Listen, you try carrying a human the size of a watermelon and see if you're not irritable.
And we actually use the word irritable.
Y'all still do?
Yeah, in pregnancy. We talk about irritable women whose uteruses, who they have contractions that aren't really putting them into labor. We call it uterine irritability.
That feels kind of condescending.
Well, we're not talking about the essence of the human being.
I mean, it's essentially...
if I said that
my uterus is under siege, man. Like, it's just...
If I said your spleen was irritable, would that bother you?
Maybe. Because it feels like it's emotion. It feels like more of an emotional term than it does a physical
Well, it's because
term.
it's got weight because it's gender specific. Everybody's got a spleen, right? So an irritable spleen kind of offends everybody.
I mean, irritable just sounds like it's like you're saying it's in a bad mood.
Yeah,
my vagina's not. My uterus is not in a bad mood. It's going through something.
That is a very interesting point I've never thought about. But we talk about uterine irritability when it's just twitchy uterus.
I don't think I wanted to call it twitchy uterus.
There are times. This is here we are looking at the
twitchy.
This is the tender underbelly of medicine, or where you just kind of don't want to know this stuff. But a lot of times we just say stuff because we don't really know what's going on.
I'm sure that's just like terminology that's gotten passed down, and it was kind of innocuous and it doesn't really hurt anybody unless somebody's really thinking about it.
Well, I don't know if other people have used this term, but I'll tell people that you're having contractions, right? You're 34 weeks, which is a month and a half before you're supposed to deliver, right?
Yeah.
And the uterus is contracting periodically, but it's not putting you into labor per se. It's not changing your cervix. It's not doing that, but it's just kind of doing things, contracting. And so I'll call it, you just have a twitchy uterus.
Yeah,
or people say you got an irritable uterus.
So twitchy. That's super weird.
Twitchy. Yeah.
Okay, so the next one.
People seem to know what it means.
I mean, we do. I just don't. I mean, I either sound like my uterus is drug addicted because it's twitchy, or it's irritable because it's moody, and I don't like either one of those. So we need to work on a new. We need a new word. Right. I'm gonna leave that up to you. Come up with a new word.
How about irritable bowel syndrome? Does that bother you?
No, because I don't have it. Thank heavens. But for y'all who suffer,
and it's not gender specific either.
No, it isn't. So, yeah, maybe that's what it is. Maybe it is super gender specific. So let's find a kinder word. We'll work on it. So next on this list of things people used to believe about women's bodies. Again, I said it came from the website The List, and we're going to put it in the syllabus so you have a chance to check out the entire thing. Female flesh is spongier than a man's. That's weird.
Well, women tend to have a little bit more adiposity.
Well, in ancient times, it was thought that women had more porous skin, which prevented them from becoming as strong as men. Wait a minute.
I don't know. I've never thought of skin as having anything to do with strength.
So because my pores are bigger, I can't consolidate more or something?
I don't know. That's just people winging it.
Yeah, that does sound like somebody just winging it.
That's a bunch of Greeks drinking and massaging each other.
It's
how
Tuesday.
they did that?
What is it? What are we going to say today?
There was a lot of, I think there was a lot of drinking and self-massage in those days. Yeah. And they just were sitting there just shooting the...
Yeah, they just make some stuff
You know what
up.
they're shooting. They're just shooting the bull.
Yeah, we know.
The krill spit.
Okay, don't start.
The krill drool.
You know how many times I'm going to have to cut that out now?
Why? Now, tell me one thing. What in God's name could be... I can tell you nobody's ever used the word krill drool, ever.
No.
We just made it here on the GynoCast. And how can that be something... And it's not on the list of the FCC.
No.
Krill drool.
It's just odd.
It is. It was just a spur of the moment thing.
As you know, it's just odd.
KD.
I usually don't cut it unless it bumps up for time. Like when eventually this has to go to the hosting service, and if they're going to charge me more money because it's longer, then I'm going to cut it out.
Okay.
It's just going to save myself a couple pennies. So
You told me you never edited. You told me.
I mean, most of the time I don't. No, I really don't. I'll let you be you. See, look at me. Look at me.
Me be me.
Okay, next on this list of things people used to believe about women's bodies, bad personalities are the fault of the ovaries. I'm actually going to kind of agree with this because when I'm PMSing, you might not want to hang out with me.
That is an interesting.
I think irritability kind of works on this one. Thanks a lot.
But that doesn't explain 100% of the time.
No, and to be honest, in terms of this, this was sort of a notion from the 18th century, and it did have terrible sort of effects if this was sort of used as a diagnosis against someone. It was common as a treatment sort of back in 1906. What they called a clitoridectomy, so basically removing the clitoris for the
female genital mutilation.
Yeah, absolutely. So the idea that someone would think you have a bad temper because of your ovaries, and here's how we're going to fix it: we're going to remove your clitoris, which is completely disconnected, but can create such awful experiences for women. So it's it's just yet again, I feel like it's the idea that no one wanted to take the time to learn about women's bodies because they didn't think women were relevant. But they had to have something to talk about, and it made them look important. So that's what they did. They just made stuff up and did horrible things. So,
sometimes I just feel like they were just making it up as they were going along.
I don't even think they absolutely were winging it. And it was just like, it is what it is.
And I'm all about winging things as long as you're not mutilating somebody. I think that's what you call boundaries that you don't cross. And if you're hurting somebody,
well,
don't do it.
Well, that's like that idea of, first do no harm. Which is what we always just assume that's always existed.
This from the guy who came up with what did Hippocrates? We were talking about this on the last when we were talking about the other myths, and he had a couple real doozies.
Yeah,
was he the wandering womb?
He was one. He was the wandering womb
that wandered in the village in the valley.
Yeah, but that wasn't the only one of his like greatest hits. Like he has far too many greatest hits of these kinds of lists. Yeah. But that's all right. That just hey. Listen.
I like that. First, do no harm, and I would say a clitorectomy is
awful.
Harm.
Yeah, that's awful.
And not to mention that it's the repercussions, the long-term side effects of a clitorectomy is bad enough, but the process without anesthesia, please.
Yeah, because never mind. Just didn't even think about that part. Okay.
Well, think about it, and we've done a conversation about female genital mutilation.
Yes, we
have.
In
many parts of the world, these are done to young women in the middle of the night without anesthesia.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is just and that just speaks to the idea that as foolish as a lot of these things sound, a lot of them have a foothold in modern day because people still believe it, people still propagate it. They may have changed or manipulated the thought process of it, but they're still propagating that notion of taking away women's agency in a lot of ways. So we do have to be, while we can laugh at some of this, we still want to be really, really present and understand that it still impacts us today in a lot of ways. We'll end with this one because I think, sure. Menstrual blood.
There's a lot of focus on this menstrual blood,
isn't it? And you know why? Because nobody wants to talk about menstrual blood. Nobody wants to deal in it. We all think it's hush hush. Nobody wants to talk about it. I mean, just it's taboo, and anything that is taboo is rife for misinformation. So this particular one is menstrual blood is evil leaving the body, and this was propagated in the 16th, 17th centuries. It was believed that menstrual blood accumulated in the body and became corrupted, and would attain a malignant and venomous quality, and that menstruation was a monthly purging of evil humors.
It's sort of interesting to think that if you didn't have the scientific method, if you didn't have the technology we have today, you're looking at your environment and trying to make sense of it. And in a weird way, you can sort of see that most animals do not have regular menstrual cycles.
True.
And so you're looking at your dog, and you're looking at your I'm going to get in trouble with this, but I'm just saying that you're looking at your cows.
You're making a reference to what would happen back then.
Yeah,
in the 16th, 17th century, it was logical to equate like a woman with a horse or a cow or a dog. It's
Well, you're
it's just how they did that.
And you're looking at another species, and you're looking at why, my cow doesn't menstruate, my cat doesn't menstruate, my dog doesn't menstruate, my goat doesn't menstruate.
Yeah,
and
why
so
are you doing it?
Yeah. And I don't think whales menstruate. And I think we have talked about this in the past. I'm pretty sure that whales do.
I have no idea what you're talking
Because
about.
what a mess in the tub.
Okay, stop it.
But plus, if you are a whale and you do not want to be eaten by a shark, you do not want to menstruate.
Well, okay.
And so, that being, but I'm just saying that you could at least see why they're looking at, why does this happen? But why would they assume that there's evil?
Because women,
why do they assume that women are evil?
But that's what I'm saying. All the way back in the day,
It's the rib.
It seemed like
It's the apple.
We're not talking about that. Yeah, I mean,
It's
honestly,
the apple.
no, but honestly, you're right. I mean, think about this. The religious tenets were the things that were determined sort of how we ordered our lives. Much of the religious tenets of the major Judeo-Christian religion speak of the ills of woman and the ills of all the things that we bring to the table because we're the bad one.
Yeah, it's not kind.
No, it's absolutely unkind. And so once that starts translating into people who are trying to make sense of actual physical things in the physical space, I mean, look over and over again. We've talked about everything from witches to women who have hysteria, which, it's not just that we might have tears or be upset about something. It's that something's wrong with us and you have to fix us or commit us. I mean, at every turn, it seemed there was a scientific or a faux scientific explanation to take away power and agency from women. And maybe just for their own comfort, maybe because they understood the world better when they were in control of it, and not being able to explain why a woman does these things on any other level meant that she might have some sort of power that you don't want her to have. I mean,
Right.
We've seen this over and over and over again. So it's heartbreaking. It's not surprising. And like I said, if this is why they don't have time machines, because if they had time machines, we would all go back and be doing this so differently.
Well, and some of the stuff that we're talking about, beyond just being interesting, and historical, is not just historical anymore. Remember, I don't know, I made a post in the Gynocast Facebook group about, I think it was in Nepal, and I know that other countries around, other cultures, when women were having their periods, they were out in the shed.
Yeah, they're shunned.
And they were literally, these women were being put at risk, et cetera. And then finally now the government is saying that that's not legal, et cetera. But this is not from the 17th century. This is happening now.
Yeah, this is today. And because a lot of these notions still exist in a lot of different cultures all around the world, we are still punishing women for being women. We're still punishing women for having basic biological functions,
Right.
which makes absolutely no sense, which is part of the reason why we wanted to highlight this list, because a lot of these things, while they sound foolish, you can probably go into the recess of your own recent memory and go, but I heard this story, but my mom told me this about your period growing up. Or, even watching it translate to the modern day of how you live your everyday life. Me and my friends don't believe that, menstrual blood is evil, but ask how many women in my circle of friends would ever have sex in their period and why, and what's the logic there. There are ways that these notions have been embedded in our society and passed down and passed down and passed down, and we're still living with it today, and we're still living with
That's right.
the notions of it today. So it's something that we wanted people to think about and to look at and kind of
Exactly.
examine for yourself.
Yeah.
So as always, we'll put all the information that we have culled together today on the syllabus. You'll be able to get it at the website. Go to matriarchdm.com and just choose the Gynocast page. It's all there for you. And if you haven't already, we mentioned it earlier, go to the Facebook page. Join us on Facebook. It's easy.
Join our little family.
Yeah, go to Facebook, put in the Gynocast in the search bar, and request to be a member. It's super easy. We vet you, and then we bring you in. We have wonderful conversations. You can suggest topics. We answer questions. We share information. And to me, it is really an amazing and supportive of community that allows us to talk about things that are difficult in a safe and supportive environment. And Eric has always done an amazing job of making sure that community serves that purpose. So definitely come and join us there today.
Yes, please. Thank you for listening. We will see you soon.